Hello, this is the RPG Pundit, the final boss and internet shitlords, and I'm here tonight with Venger and with Job, and we're here for another episode of Inappropriate Characters. And you'd think it'd be Halloween because we're going to be mostly talking about the ghosts and goblins and ghouls and whatever of Ravenloft. Although Ravenloft really ain't what it used to be, because believe it or not, the people who've made the newest Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft have made a point of saying that, you know, Ravenloft shouldn't be gothic or horror, and they cite their main influence for the writing of the product as Scooby-Doo. So they want it to be high fantasy, not horror, and they want it to be based on the wacky antics of everybody's favorite dog and gang of hippies. Anyways, this is the main topic for tonight, but we're going to be talking about some other things too. We got Job here and Venger. Job, what's first on our agenda? Well, Venger, what do you want to talk about first? Because I know you have another topic that you wanted to talk about also. Do you want to start with yours, or do you want to start with Ravenloft and then put yours in the middle somewhere, or what do you prefer?
Well, mine will probably be the shortest, so okay. Let's do that. I don't know if you guys have seen the new, the Drizzt, the Dark Elf of Icewind Dale. The books by R.A. Salvatore. They made what are they?
I'm sorry for interrupting, Venger. Yeah. Sorry, but I'm getting here from the chat that they can hear me but not Job. Can you guys hear Venger? There's some people saying that they can hear me, and okay, so Venger and I can be heard. Job, you are not audible. And some people are saying they can't see us either.
Okay. All right.
Okay, good.
So I don't know if this is like just a one-off for promotional stuff. If it is, it's a good idea. I don't know if it's like a teaser for maybe the rumor of a movie next year about that. But that Benedict Cumberbatch actor who's done a number of things like Sherlock Holmes, he's narrating this bedtime story soliloquy thing of life in the Underdark, or life of what it's like to be a dark elf. He just, reading it to some audience, us, I guess, as you watch like him and other people in both Drow society underground and the surface world above ground. And I mean, it's cool. I mean, I like the language of it. I like the visuals. I think obviously the Cumberbatch guy was a good choice because it sounded cool, and also he's got a lot of name recognition, so that's good for D&D. I mean, I'm surprised, kind of a little surprised that he would do that, unless they're saying that, well, if you do this, then we'll promise you a role that's Drizzt for the movie that we're making. I mean, I don't know about that.
Cumberbatch needs the money, it's like in the older days.
Maybe he's like Nicolas Cage. He's like, I want to be in everything, man.
Well, I was thinking of like, Orson Welles, who eventually he went broke and eventually was like doing commercials for canned spam or whatever. It was just so sad.
Even Sean Connery, who by the grace of God, we got Zardoz, one of the greatest movies ever made. He did that because he was broke after spending all of his 007 money. And he was slumming it for a few years, which included Zardoz from 1974, I think. Year I was born.
All right, so you liked this video then of the kind of the childhood story of Drizzt or something like that.
Yeah, I liked it. I mean, I wasn't expecting like The Godfather, but D&D. So with your expectations set at a reasonable level, I think it was really good. The visuals were good. the content, the words, that he was speaking are good, and I think he did really good voice work. Didn't he do Smaug for that Hobbit movie? Okay.
Yeah.
So he's known.
Yeah, no, Cumberbatch has a very, very classically trained and excellent speaking voice. So he's perfect for narrating epic sort of stuff.
Yeah.
He could make a commercial for I don't know, for My Pillow sound epic if he wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't sound too British in like a slangy, like Cockney way or whatever. Or sometimes you can tell, like, oh, that guy sounds like
that's because he's posh British. He's not. Yeah. He's not Cockney.
which is to American ears sounds like normal British, like normal Midwestern Midwestern America, like the United States British. Not like, oh, that person's from like Florida or Texas, but British. Does that make sense?
Now, Job, are people able to hear Job again? Because I've got a question for him.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. The only for some reason this scene my microphone was not set to the right output, so I think I'm good now. I see the levels moving in the app.
So here's the thing: I felt basically nothing watching the Drizzt commercial or what have you. I think, to be fair to R.A. Salvatore, he is probably a mediocre fantasy writer, which made him by far the best D&D fantasy writer that ever existed, right? Like for D&D, in the whole series of official D&D novels, he was the best because he was basically a good technical hack of standard fantasy schlock, right? Which was way better than most of the others. But I've never cared about Drizzt. I've never cared about that storyline. I can applaud Cumberbatch for having done a good narration, but I mean, that's to be expected from him. But Job, I seem to remember, and we were talking off screen before we started, that you did not like this thing. Why is that?
I've just never really been into the Drizzt novels. I've tried to read them multiple times, and I don't like the writing. Unfortunately, like, I just don't like his writing. It's not very good. It doesn't grip me at all. So it's like a slog trying to read it. I mean, someone can tell me what I should start on a different book or something. I don't know. I'd be willing to give it another shot, but yeah, I'm definitely not an R.A. Salvatore fan. I mean, I picked up the Menzo Baranzan stuff. I've got all the books. I just couldn't get into it. Later on, I picked up a later one he did. I can't remember which one it was, but it started off, and he had the Guinevere, whatever the hell his Liger, his Uma is called, and then he also had a unicorn. So he had like a figure, a toy unicorn in his pocket, and he's calling his unicorn and his Uma or Panther, whatever the hell it is. And I don't know, it just seems really lame. I've never been able to get into it. That being said, I really should read it because I'm a big fan of. Did you guys ever read the War of the Spider Queen series?
I think so.
Forgotten Realms novels. Those are pretty good. It was like a bunch of different authors. I was able to read it up until there was one by Phil Athens that was like horrible, and that killed it for me. But the whole, matriarchal kind of sadistic crime kind of family that underground, I thought was is really interesting. So I'm sure R.A. Salvatore probably set the groundwork for all that stuff. I know I had read something about he had based a lot of the Drow's society on like the Godfather books, I think, or maybe it was the movies.
No,
anyway, I'm not looking forward to it at all. I don't know. I just found an article about it. What's actually going to come out? So this summer they're going to have a video game release, Dark Alliance. They're going to have Magic the Gathering crossover. I don't know.
Why does D&D always include Magic the Gathering? I mean, I know they're owned by the same parent company, but
Yeah.
It's just-
Now I didn't see anything in there about D&D
stupid.
adventures or anything that involved Drizzt. Are you guys familiar with that? Is that part of their release schedule?
I haven't heard anything about that, to be honest.
No, I don't know anything about that. But I, for one, do like R.A. Salvatore's writing. I mean, I wasn't a big reader, like, at all when I was younger. And I tried here and there. I kind of gravitated to Lovecraft in there.
You
but
don't say.
yeah, exactly. Like, what? Fuck? But one of the authors that I tried to read that I actually got into right away, started reading it, like read the whole book, which was a rarity for me because I would usually start a book or almost finish a book or get halfway in between and then put it down and like never go back. But this one I finished in a relatively short time. And so I realized that it was very readable to me, and I don't know, there's stuff about it I like the characters and the D&D world, and I like his writing. But to each his own.
I thought it was funny on the Geek Dad article that I picked up. It's they had to like make Drizzt a victim the way like in the first two sentences. So it was like, as the central character of over 30 novels, Drizzt has been explored in a huge array of situations, such as a coming-of-age story facing domestic child abuse, racial discrimination, and forging a found family.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, right, that if they are going to make a series of a new series of Drizzt or whatever, then the whole, I think the reason why they would be motivated to do that is because, of course, they have to purge it of toxic masculinity the way that they're trying to purge the rest of D&D of their, of racism and white supremacy and all of the rest,
Right. Yeah. I'm really going to be curious to see what they do about the oppressive matriarchy of of the Underdark. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've already made it. One thing that they have said is they've made it canon now. I mean, first of all, they've changed the skin tone. They keep changing the skin tone of the Drow. They went from having this dark, basically not actually human black skin, right? Like, because it's not, I don't think that it's a skin tone that any human had, but okay.
Actually, originally, I believe this is a very, very short time period. Like before they were introduced in Fiend Folio, the Dark Elves, the Drow, were white, like albino white, and then very shortly after that, then they went to like.
No, I think you might be mixing that up with the Shadow Elves of Mystara, who are always pale elves. Because I mean, it does make more sense, right? If you live your entire life underground, you're going to be pale, not black.
I think this was before Mystara, because I think this was like some of the B.
Oh well, I could be wrong. Audience
of like Moldvay, maybe Blue Home, D&D.
Yeah, don't even get me started on all ridiculous
tell
things.
Audience, if you know in the chat whether Venture's right, if there were pale Drow before anything else.
Yeah.
But anyways, the point is that they changed them from that to like purple, which is what you can see in like the image that Job presented. But then in the books, they've now become like this weird kind of bluish white, and they've done all that already with the Drow. Now they've also established that the Drow are actually good guys, and it's just like the ones that are the evil Lolth worshipping Drow that we all know are just one faction of them, but that actually the majority of the Drow are nice, right? Those guys are like the bad guys, but they're the only ones anyone ever hears about because of bigotry. Right? So it's like, this is how it's going, Well,
whenever I have games where someone would play like a Dark Elf as a player character, people made jokes like that all the time, like. Dark Elf is a stand-in for racism in the real world. And it's always been funny because you juxtaposition that and, it's not real, or it's not true. One race doesn't correspond with another race in the real world. But I don't know.
In Brutal Blades, my deep elves, which are a take on this, are albino. Obviously, none of the stuff made sense. You know, it's like why would underground dwellers worship spiders? There wouldn't be any freaking spiders there. So my deep elves worship bats.
Makes sense. Anyways, from the chat comments, we've got Shadzar here says the Gazetteer was Shadow Elves. Shadzar says Shadow Elves were the white-skinned outcasts. Yeah, that's where they first appeared in Mystara, was in the Gazetteer. Judd Goswick says Pale Drow was an Atlantis thing, I think. I don't know what that refers to. Martin Tepley says Gygax Drow were black obsidian. So there you are.
I see. This is something that I read, and then someone like posted like a little tiny screenshot of like words that confirmed what this guy said. But again, this is just something I read on the internet, so I could be wrong.
Yeah, Malachi's Mercurial Musing says a purple tint to the drow black skin were on the cover of the original Underdark modules. So I guess they were always a little bit purple. Martin Tepley says Warhammer's dark elves are pale. So there we are.
Yeah.
In World of the Last Sun, by the way, the shadow elves are dark skinned, but they don't really live in caves or underground. They live in the surface. And they look very much like, you know, the kind of overly hyped badasses with scimitars and spiky armor and everything else. You know, they're meant to look totally dark and sinister and powerful, except that every single member of their race has a high-pitched, squeaky voice that makes them just ridiculous and everyone laughs at them. Anyway, so, okay, do we have anything else to say about this video? I mean...
over 3 million views. I watched it for the first time this morning, because I'd heard this buzz about it. And yeah, it was up to 3.3 million views. And I mean, that's pretty huge because it just came out a few days ago, didn't it? Or a week ago?
Yeah, that's a big hit for Dungeons and Dragons too, because like I don't know if you've ever seen their talk show on their they have a channel where they do a talk show sort of like this, except it's usually basically an infomercial for their products.
Right.
And they've got like but they've got they have 300,000 subscribers, and they barely get more views than any of my videos, and I've got like 3,000 subscribers, you know, so like I'm kicking their ass in relative terms, you know.
That's probably paid for.
Yeah, well, exactly. They've got if they've got supposedly 300,000 subscribers, and they're getting like 4,000 views to a video, 4,000 to 8,000 views to a video. That tells you that a lot of those subscribers aren't real, or if they are, they've never gone back. You know. Anyway,
definitely.
All right, so I guess it's on to Ravenloft.
Ravenloft.
In case anyone doesn't know, and if you don't know, how come you haven't been watching my videos? The newest product by Wizards of the Coast is Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, which is a book that has a collection of a reinvention of the realms of Ravenloft from, you know, the Ravenloft campaign setting. Wizards published this because out of all of their adventures, the most successful one that they ever did was Curse of Strahd, so they figured that this was going to be a big hit. But then, of course, they hired a whole bunch of people that despise D&D and D&D gamers to write it. Chief amongst which is Jessica Price, who is pretty infamous in not just tabletop but video game fandom for being someone that openly expresses her contempt for all gamers and all games. It was very funny because on the day that it came out that she was involved in the project, her response was to send a tweet talking about how evil Wizards of the Coast is, and that it's perfectly okay to keep boycotting it, even though she's working for it now. You know, so like literally they hired someone whose response to the announcement of her own hiring was to say the company that has paid me to do this is a piece of shit, right? And somehow they just put up with it, right? Because corporations aren't doing what they're supposed to do anymore. Corporations are supposed to be making money, you know?
Thank you, ma'am. May I have another?
Yeah, really. It's just unbelievable, right? And they've hired a whole bunch of supposed experts, but they're experts on nothing of any value, of any human value whatsoever. They hired people based on their skin color and their gender and their sexual orientation and their gender orientation and everything else, but not necessarily because they're in any way experts on RPGs. Some of them maybe, I think, I'm pretty sure at least a few of them have never played RPGs, and certainly not their skills in game design. They've hired people just because, like the guy that's doing the Indian sort of realm in Ravenloft, they hired him because he's Indian, and he even knows it because he said so. Like he knows that it's because he's an Indian. Now, I don't know. Maybe that guy is a tremendous expert on Gupta era, India or something like that, and there's a reason for him to create a setting that's a parallel to that place. But that's not what they're promoting him for. They're promoting him because of the color of his skin, and that's not what he's talking about. So, whatever. And of course, the person that they hired to do the Egyptian place is a Black American woman, which just, how does that, okay. But according to their logic, that makes perfect sense. Let's remember that. But the thing is, the blatant number of, the hiring and the blatant number of gender and race and sexuality changes that they've made to major characters in the setting, just for the sake of wokeness and as a cheap excuse for their complete lack of creativity, because they can't create interesting characters of their own. So they're just going to take established characters and change their gender or their race or their sexuality and think that that's somehow winning. To me, the biggest thing is in their DMing advice, where they made a point of saying that, like they literally say, in Ravenloft, the characters are supposed to be scared. Your players aren't, bigot. Like you're not supposed to make your game spooky or something. That would be wrong. And then they've gone and presented a section that they title "Subvert Cliches," right? Not, making better cliches or reforming cliches or proper use of subvert, as in deconstruct and destroy, right? Like this is the goal of what they want to do here.
They might as well have had a sidebar that said, "How to game master like Ryan Johnson."
Yeah, totally. That's excellent.
Who directed the worst Star Wars movie in the series, perhaps. I mean, it depends on how much you dislike Episode 2 or 1 or 3.
Well, my favorite part of the subvert cliche section is that the very first rule they give you, basically, it says avoid drawing inspiration from stock characters in fiction or film. What are you supposed to do? What are you basing any of this on?
Don't use any tropes, any cliches, any stereotypes or stock characters. Just like completely wing it using just your words and no visual.
Let's point out
a movie or a book or anything where you can draw from like this or like.
Let's point out, right, that Ravenloft started with a module that was a reimagining of Dracula. And then the second module that it did was, I believe, a reimagining of the Wolfman folk story, right? Specifically the German version of that story, right? And then it made a whole setting full of realms that are all reimaginings of classic Gothic horror, Frankenstein, et cetera, the Mummy, so on and so forth. And here you are in a Ravenloft book, and they're telling you you shouldn't do that, right? You must not have those things in your game, which I guess explains why they didn't even bother putting stat blocks for the Dark Lords and whatnot, or alignments. That alignments are banned now because they're bigoted, so they're not doing alignments anymore in D&D. Because it would be unfair to call Strahd evil, right? That's just not right. Anyway, In terms of comments from the crowd so far, let's see what we've got here. Charles Smith says, don't buy games from people who hate you. Shadzar says, Jessica Price, fired from Paizo, fired from ArenaNet, hired by Wizards to work on D&D. She's the next Lorraine Williams. Yeah, well, maybe.
Sounds about right.
Calvin DeJordy says, self-flagellating hiring is just the price you pay for kissing the ring and bowing to the devouring mother. Yep. Snowman says the image, that image on the screen from Ravenloft is pure cancer and cringe. That the image that Joe would put up there is of a pair of characters from Ravenloft, Ray and Sedgwick, I believe they're called, which are the parallel to Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, right? And they're in a, you know, they're very clearly in the original box set meant to be Sherlock Holmes and Watson. And in the new version, what they've done is the Sherlock Holmes guy is now handy capable. He's in a combat wheelchair. The Watson guy is black. They're both gay and they're married.
Oh my God.
And this is all canon. That's all in there. So they said, how many things can we do to woke these guys up? You know, because
well, you know why the guy in the wheelchair or girl in the wheelchair or it in the wheelchair had to be the Sherlock Holmes, because if he wasn't the brains of the operation, he'd be useless. I mean,
also just artistically,
besides dungeoneering, like dungeon crawling, he'd be useless, or she would be useless. I don't know. I don't know the gender of that.
Artistically, this image is so bad. It's so bad for Ravenloft because it doesn't have any depiction of actual fear, right? It shows an image of kind of wacky action, right? But it's not actually. It doesn't have any of the somberness of Gothic horror, right? But beyond that, it's objectively stupid. I mean, look at the Holmes guy's face. He looks like he's on drugs and just like relaxing because he thinks this is all a hallucination, right? Like there's no element of tension at all in his appearance, right?
Well, that would make sense if he was Holmes. Sherlock Holmes.
He's like,
probably
I don't even care, man. You know?
That's the thing you mentioned. That's what I like best about it.
Do you guys know? Is there any kind of like scuttlebutt on Twitter about this image? Because you know what's that? You know that woman who made the combat wheelchair, Sarah something Mustang Arts or whatever.
Well,
is she pissed that they've appropriated her wheelchair?
No, they love
featured
this.
it in here.
The combat wheelchair was introduced officially to the D&D canon in Candlekeep. I assume she was paid money for it too, or something.
Okay,
maybe
Jesus.
I don't know. But what that means is that from now on, every single product Wizards ever makes is going to have a combat wheelchair in it. Because if they don't, they will immediately be called out as bigots, right?
I hope they do. They have the rest of us to not buy it.
Yeah, well, the Wizards is going to have to keep paying that Danegeld forever, right? They're going to have to keep showing the combat wheelchair from now on, because the moment they don't, they're being bigoted against the handicapped, right?
Yeah.
Malachi's Mercurial Musing says, I wonder if the Egyptian domain had slavery like real ancient Egypt. Well, the Egyptian domain, I wanted to talk more about this on a video of my own later, but to put it briefly, it's been made there was a whole article about this, that, you know, the original Egyptian domain was like the stupid mummy movies of the 1920s or something like that. And so it was bigoted, of course, and totally wrong. And the person that is making the new version of it, Harakir is the name of the realm. Her name is Tempest Bradford, and she's one of these kind of SJW sci-fi fantasy writers. No idea if she's even a gamer, but she said, you know, why do you need to have imperialists coming into this realm to save it, right? So I tried to write it as the people saving themselves, right? And she's basically, you know, made it like. Well, I mean, her version of Egypt is black, right? Which is, we know, is historically wrong in every way, right? It's a complete, it was an invention of certain people with an ideological agenda. It was conclusively disproven by a massive DNA study of mummies in 2017. I don't know if the realm that she made has slavery or not. I presume probably not in some way, because I mean, like, you know, I don't know. Anyways, I'm going to talk more about that at some point in a video of my own on my channel. So I don't want to linger on it here right now. Let's see what else. Lord Mateo says this is propaganda, pure and simple. Yes. Whoops, just lost my spot here. Charles Smith says subvert cliches. Yes, indeed. Shadsar says Ravenloft is the last Jedi of D&D. Well, exactly. I mean, and exactly like The Last Jedi, it's probably going to sell a whole ton of copies still, because, again, first of all, gamers are stupid, and second, people will be buying on faith. But I'm betting that the net effect is that there's going to be a certain number of people that are going to be pissed off at the wokeness of this product and won't buy the next book. But, you know,
that will, whatever comes next.
Candlekeep didn't do it for him.
Raven's woke will be like the solo of.
Well, Candlekeep was already very woke, but Ravenloft is going to be even more woke. So it's just a question of, you know, them pushing the envelope at every step. You know, it's going to create a cycle there. Judd Goswick says, in quotes, when ripping off Hammer films, don't rip anything off. Yeah, that's their basic advice. Chibi 1986 says, side note, has anyone noticed that many of the recent D&D books on Amazon have over 8,000 ratings, almost all 5-star within a few days of release? So you think they're cooking it? I guess that's possible.
Probably.
But, it could also be that there's just a shitload of nerds out there that, you know, they're just, you know, drooling fanboys of anything will give you 5 stars right from the start, you know. So I'm not totally
waiting for
sure
the fatigue to set in, you know, because fanboys, I mean, I was a fanboy when I got back into D&D in like 2008, and then, you know, slowly over time I kind of realized, like, you know, I'm being a fanboy, I'm not being objective about this. So I don't know. I'm really hoping that some of these people kind of look at it and realize that, you know, they're buying a bunch of crap, and that they would be better off either, you know, supporting OSR stuff or just writing their own modules and adventures and supplements.
Yeah. Cal Bononi says Strahd is just misunderstood. Ban the word dark. Well, that's another thing people have commented about the art, right? Like, you look at that piece that Joe put up. It's light color, right? It's you know, blue skies, right? And that's not really what the atmosphere of Ravenloft is meant to be, you know.
Yeah, everything was like warm cherry wood and inviting, and you know.
Snowman says time for someone to make OSR Hammer horror. That would be a great idea, actually. I don't think I'm the guy to do that, but I'm sure that there's somebody in the OSR field that would probably be pretty good at doing a Hammer horror version of OSR.
Someone already did that one for a DCC. You can see this. Transylvania Adventures is pretty good.
Oh, yeah? Well, there you go.
Check it out.
Did you have anything to do with that one, Job?
No, I just gave the guy some advice. I think he called me out in here in the beginning somewhere, just like a special thanks or something. But oh yeah, additional contributions and editing. I found a bunch of like mathematical issues and just kind of
that's always good. So yeah. Malachi's Material Musing says, apparently there's a Red Death 5e conversion on DM's Guild, which is better than the new book. I wouldn't be surprised. It wouldn't take a lot to be better. Vladok says, in the image, one of them is an elf, the other human. So they're actually a multiracial, gay, married, disabled couple. I guess that's true.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know how it could go any further. Maybe they could be transracial somehow.
who wrote? Oh, I missed.
I guess I'm too far ahead of the curve there. I should, wait 5 years and then.
Windy City Weeb says your dungeons have to be ADA compliant, bigot. Shadzar says Candlekeep Mysteries only had ramps. First Last says, I'm probably going to buy Arrows of Indra soon. I hope it has combat wheelchairs too, since the cover is so inclusive already. No, Arrows of Indra does not have combat wheelchairs. Sorry to disappoint. Snowman says, Egypt was never black. It went Greek at one point. Well, technically, there was the 25th dynasty. The 25th dynasty were a Nubian dynasty that conquered Egypt, and for about 80 years or so were the pharaohs of Egypt, and they were black, undoubtedly. They were also basically imperialist colonizers of Egypt. So they were the bad guys. Maybe that's what Tempest Bradford's doing in her setting. I don't know. Maybe they're the bad guys. Matthew Martin says, 30 years of Ravenloft fandom. I bought The Curse of Strahd on faith. It convinced me not to buy this, and everything I've ever seen and heard only reinforces that. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, one of the especially in this like subvert cliches, they say stuff like, don't use cliche accent, especially to represent marginalized people, and
marginalized.
Show how people from multiple people from the same culture are different. I don't know. It's like, I think one of the things about role-playing games when you play with a group of people is you have to have some kind of cultural touchstones. I mean, like, say, I think people now would be, at a gaming convention, for example, if you're playing a Western, if you said like, I don't need no stinking batches, like a lot of people would be like, oh, that's a racist stereotype, but it's, you're calling out something from a very famous Western movie, so I don't know. It just
the Three Amigos.
Yeah, let's establish one thing. I'm a very multilingual person and have lived in many parts of the world. And there is no such thing as a cliche accent. There's only accents.
Yeah,
People have accents.
Right?
That's a real world thing, right? Like, when I first lived in a Latin American country, because I was born in Canada, I had a stupid gringo accent when I spoke Spanish, right? That has now gone away, and I speak almost indistinguishable from native Spanish, right? But a lot of people in Uruguay, if they speak in English, they will be speaking like this because their English, they know the English from, they study a bit in school and things like that, but they don't speak it perfect. So they'll have an accent, right? And everybody, everywhere you go, people have an accent. Germans have accents. Vietnamese people have accents. Russians have accents. People from Nigeria have accents. So to call them cliche accents is like a denial of fundamental reality. It's these people think that it's somehow racist to suggest that everyone doesn't talk the way that they speak English in Seattle, right? Mm-hmm. That if all of your people, if all of the characters that you have don't sound like a 21st century Seattleite, you're a racist. No, if all the people in your game don't sound like a 21st century Seattleite, you're not mentally ill. That's the thing that you're doing there. Is you're showing reality rather than an intentional ideological suspension of reality.
Yeah, so I don't know. This kind of stuff makes it's like, what is the game anymore? It's like not people coming together around like a shared love of some kind of fiction now. It's like I don't know, people competing to cancel each other. I mean, like, why would you want to participate in that?
Well, they believe the fiction is toxic, and so why write about it or celebrate it at all if you don't like it, or if you find so much wrong with it because you're a critical Marxist or something like that, you're deconstructionist, postmodernist, whatever. I mean, I don't know. If you like horror, then allow yourself to enjoy horror and don't crap on it for the rest of us.
Yeah. Actually, the other thing that's funny, like the last little nugget of wisdom they give is magical settings bear no resemblance to real world history. Okay, so then why are you rewriting the Vistani and all this other stuff? Because if they bear no resemblance to real world history, then there isn't a problem, right?
If it's the end of history, if this is Pol Pot's year zero, which is what these fuckers want, right? Then there is no claim to say that these characters in this fantasy setting are meant to represent anything in reality, right? So all of your claims that orcs are actually secretly black people or whatever else whatever other nonsense you make up has no argument to it, right? If magical settings bear no resemblance to real world history, then you can make any fucking thing you want, you cunts. Like, it just pisses me off so much. Of course, they'll say it has no resemblance to real world history because they're incapable of writing anything based on real history because they were taught wrong on purpose by a bunch of communists in school that want to destroy history so that people don't have any sense of context to understand that the totalitarian bullshit they're pushing is wrong, So they don't know how to write history. They couldn't make history if they tried. But the idea that a setting is better for not being reflective of history is idiotic, right? The best settings in the world are the settings that actually draw from history, myth, and folklore, all of which the DM advice in Ravenloft tells you to destroy, right? Tells you to ignore and reject. This is actually a guide for how to do everything badly.
Yeah, pretty much. This is the list of the worst DMing advice I've ever seen collected in one page.
The book of what not to do.
Well, it's like DMing advice invented to piss a guy like me off, right? Because they're trying to destroy history and they're trying to destroy myth, and they're ignoring real world cultural differences, right? Like that. It's fucking ridiculous because these guys who claim to be the great multiculturalists, to them, multiculturalism just means having different types of food and not being allowed to criticize if someone blows up people in the name of their god, right? That's multiculturalism to them, instead of actually recognizing that different cultures will have different values and different ways of looking at things and different ways of speaking and all of that stuff, and we'll have different histories that should be represented in an authentic and accurate way, So to them, like their idea of adding multiculturalism to a setting just means hiring someone that has a different skin color, even if what they produce, and we saw the proof of this in Candlekeep with Daniel Kwan, even if what they produce is identical to stuff that's always been produced. But now it's being done by a Chinese guy instead of a white guy. So suddenly it's authentic when it's not. His stuff was no more authentic than Oriental Adventures, right? Because I don't know if it's because he just phoned it in or if it's because he doesn't know a damn thing about Chinese history or martial arts, right?
I think it's because WotC, for a long time is exclusively found freelancers through Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. And by people that have called for the destruction of Wizards of the Coast, right? That's one thing that Daniel Kwan, that Jessica Price, and that several of the other collection of freaks that have been hired on these two books have been doing very loudly on Twitter for the last several years, and their reward is that they're being hired by Wizards. It's Wizards trying actively as hard as it can to commit suicide, Yeah,
I don't know. I think we've kind of flogged this one to death. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Have we? Let me see if there's anything else I can complain about here. Oh, yes, there is, right? It says here, they say here, if your favorite horror story features outdated tropes, your fondness doesn't redeem them, right? First of all, there's no such thing as an outdated trope, right? You could claim that certain tropes are inaccurate tropes, right? I guess technically you could say an outdated trope is a trope that people couldn't possibly understand anymore, right? So if there's like, I don't know, a trope about somebody using an old-fashioned rotary phone, I guess that might be outdated. I'm not sure. But But the idea that the only reason these people want to claim tropes in general are outdated is because they oppose the idea of archetypes and symbols, and they don't believe that those things should be used, because they want to instead use the medium of a spontaneously generated narrative based purely on feelings and ideology. And so they want to claim that all tropes are outdated trope. It's why they don't put any examples of what an outdated trope would be. And then they claim that inherent in the way they wrote that sentence, they state that these tropes would need to be redeemed. They don't. No trope needs redemption. You guys can't decide that, right? Archetype and myth is something universal and human. All right, and I'm going to prove it right now. So I want the audience to pay attention to this. I'm going to describe a character, and you guys, if you think you know who I'm talking about here, please make it in the comments, right? Make it to guess who you think I'm talking about in the comments, right? So this is a schoolboy. This is a schoolboy who is fat. He's rude. He's cruel to his friends. He's fairly racist, even to the opinion of his fellow schoolboys. He's greedy. He loves making money. He's usually cheap at the same time. He's only ever really nice to his friends, like fake nice to them when he needs something from them. He laughs at other people's misery. He's a bit of a bully, but he is actually a terrible coward himself. He'll go crying to his mom anytime something bad happens to him. He's also, he takes advantage of his mom, though maybe if you want to be really generous, you could say that maybe he does deep down love his mother. He's lazy and usually comes up with ridiculous schemes to try to get out of trouble, to try to get some kind of an advantage for himself. He thinks he's tremendously smart and cool, and there's no evidence whatsoever of that. Let me see. I already mentioned the racist bit.
This must be an outdated trope, because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, I see that there's a lot of people here that are mentioning Eric Cartman from South Park, right? No, that wasn't who I was describing. I was describing Billy Bunting, who most of you have probably never heard of. But Billy Bunting was the product of like hundreds and hundreds of short stories and books from the 1890s till around the 1960s about, bad schoolboy who is identical in personality, basically, to Cartman. He's just the British schoolboy version of Eric Cartman, though probably Trey Parker and Matt Stone had never actually heard about him, right? They probably had no reason to hear about it. I mean, they're not historians or something, and they're not British, so there's no chance that they would have But if you were in England today, you'd probably still be able to find at used bookstores Billy Bunting books. And the thing about that is that he's the exact same character that was created over again without their knowledge by Trey Parker and Matt Stone when they made South Park, because he's an archetype, right? This is the creation of a concept, because all of us at some point in our lives have known someone that's a little bit like Eric Cartman or Billy Bunting, right? So everybody's known that schoolboy, right? And he's had some, not all, but some of those characteristics. So these are things that are based at some level. They're a platonic ideal of something that we know as human beings. And throughout all of history, there's always been a Billy Bunting or an Eric Cartman, right? And it's a silly example, but there's also always been a Hercules, right? Or there's always been a Loki, right? These are characters that are a product of the deep human collective unconscious. And so they need no redemption from a little gang of pathetic postmodernist communists. And I'm sorry for taking up so much of the time here of this video, but it's just it pisses me off so much when they try to pull that garbage where they in the sentence they set up an argument that you then try to defend. No, it's not so bad. We have to redeem it. No, we don't have to redeem anything. We don't have to apologize for a damn thing, because what we represent is what has always been a part of the potential of human consciousness. Sorry,
yeah, no, I'm picking up exactly what you're putting down. I mean, I've come to the realization that RPGs really are like a group of people like get together and talk in a symbolic language, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Because if we're creating a virtual world in an RPG, that world has to be a world of archetypes, because that's how we can communicate with each other, right?
Exactly.
It's through those archetypes.
Yeah. And that's and then the everyman, the lowbrow version is you speak through your shared cliches, the shared characters in your favorite fiction and movies and stuff like that. But those all go up to the same level, right? Or down to whatever way you want to describe it. But
absolutely.
Right.
But, so anyone else have anything more to say? I think I've used all my available time. I'll cede the rest of my time to you guys.
Should we fit in
a great rant.
Some shilling for our products and what else we're doing?
Oh yeah. What's your name? RPG Pundit has got some big news. I'm going to jump over to your screen, Pundit. Oh, crap. That's not your screen. Hold on. Okay, now I got your screen.
Got my screen up. All right. So I guess my big news, besides all my existing products, is that I am right now in the process of doing a final review of the what is essentially the completed version of my Invisible College RPG. If you guys don't know, this is going to be my next big RPG project. It's a complete OSR RPG set in the modern world, but in a world where occult groups, with magical power, fight a secret war for the future of humanity. It is brilliantly done by Wellivered Press. The layout is spectacular. The art is spectacular. None of that is thanks to me. That's all thanks to my editor and publisher. It's going to be 430 pages, more or less, in length.
That's great.
It's going to be available in obviously PDF, but also in print in both black and white and color versions. It's going to be absolutely badass and a really a modern fantasy RPG, unlike any other one that I know of, anyways. And a lot of it, just like Lion and Dragon's magic system, is based on how people imagined magic to work in the Middle Ages. The magic system here is based on how people conceive of magic in the modern era, how actual magicians, anyways, conceive of magic in the modern era, not everyday people. And it's going to be great. It's a lot of secret societies and government organizations and shadowy groups and demons and angels, and the future of mankind is at stake, and a bunch of adventurer magicians going around as part of one of these secret societies trying to save humanity. So I think that everybody's going to like it quite a lot, and it's going to come out probably sometime within the next 2 weeks or so, 2 or 3 weeks at the most. So by the time we do our next episode, it should be out. So keep an eye out for it. I'll obviously be keeping people updated on my YouTube channel and on my Twitter and other social media. It is coming along really, really well. For now, though, if you can't handle that, well, check out, if you can't handle the wait for that, you want to help support me right now, you can check out my other products, including, World of the Last Sun. I just did a video last week with Venger and Aaron the Pedantic on his on their Gonzo talk show on YouTube.
Gonzo up your ass.
Gonzo up your ass. There you go. And it went really well. And World of the Last Sun is available right now for purchase. So is Lion and Dragon, Dark Albion, Star Adventure, Arrows of Indra, all of which are great games. And if you've got money burning a hole in your pocket, and you'll have money later for Invincible College, pick all of those up, or check out my various RPG Pundit Presents issues. I got 104 of them. There's another one in the works right now. It's going to come out fairly soon. And I'm sure that you guys will find a lot of useful stuff there. I see somebody's asking about the square and compass there in the image. Well, the section that page is from is the section on public secret societies, and so it's actually just the entry on Freemasons, which is why it has that image. So it's actually just talking about that one happens to be talking about the Freemasons as a group, but they're not one of the secret society, the real secret societies that are fighting it out in the occult war. They're just kind of patsies. Anyway, I guess that's it for my promotion.
And if I can add on to your promotion, my wife and I have been playing in RPG Pundit's Invisible College game, and we are having a really good time. We're still playing, and you can do lines of coke with Aleister Crowley. So that's another bonus.
Only if you travel in time, though.
Okay, you're up, Avenger.
All right. That does sound cool. So I'm between Kickstarters right now, and what I just finished up was the Saving Chalts PDF that's on DriveThru RPG. And it's over 100 pages of adventures and other Chaltian things. So if you like Chalt and Chalt Fuchsia Malaise, this is like a stepping stone before book 3. So it's pretty cool. And then there'll be another Kickstarter next month for like another one-off PDF adventure. But this one will feature Alpha Blue and Chalt. So it'll be like the sleazy and sexiness will be cranked up to like 11. Yeah, Chalt After Dark, that Kickstarter is going to go live sometime in June. So look for that. So that should be a lot of fun. I feel like I can let loose with something that I forewarn people. It's going to have a lot of, sleazy, raunchy, naughty, occasionally disgusting sex stuff in it. And it's unapologetically so. So this is my chance to kind of like go nuts, and that's what I intend to do.
Good stuff.
Nice. All right. Guess I'm up. So I'm just feeling the same thing as last time. My magic book, the Book of Antitheses, is going to the printer in June. So it's coming out through Lamentations of the Flame Princess. So I need to make sure I explicitly say this time, because I heard from Raji last time that a bunch of people clipped me shilling last month and said, they all, for some reason, I don't know who these people are, but they thought it was a book of new spells like Eldritch Cock or Vaginas or Magic or something. It is not a book of lamentation spells, to be clear. It is a book of occult magic designed for game masters.
So weird.
They have a bunch of techniques in it where you will actually, learn real magic and use it within the context of bringing your game world to life. So there's, you can invoke demons. There's special character sheets for that. You can, there's ceremonial dice magic where you can cast spells with dice. There's, binding ritual. It's a whole thing. Divination. Divination that ostensibly is for your game world, but all these techniques. These are real techniques that you could use outside of a fictional game world as well. And there are coded messages that help you do that. But that's as much of a hint as I can give you guys. So
cool.
That's that.
But
Well,
Job,
it's not time.
Job,
So,
don't you know you're not
go.
not making Christianity better. You're just making rock and roll worse, dude.
Before I go, I will I will point out
You
a
read
line.
part of it. You were like, "Who the hell's going to read this?" Seems like a niche product, but
Yeah, I thought the Invisible College was a niche product. Jesus, this is a niche in the niche.
Kevin DeJordy said, Venger is letting out his inner female erotic fanfic writer. So definitely, yes. That's my intention. And with that, yes, I'm going to go. You guys have been great.
All right.
Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Got to
Take care, man.
She who must
been
be.
fun.
Yes.
See you next time.
See you next time.
Our next episode is going to be, I think, on the 20th of June. Is that right? Yeah. Sunday the 20th.
I believe so. Let's see.
Yeah. 4 weeks from now is Sunday the 20th. So everybody keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, and just to give you guys a heads up, it looks like we are going to have a very, very special guest for next episode, but we got to wait till we lock it all in before we announce it. Actually, we're not going to announce it. You just tune in, and the odds are very high that we're going to have a very special guest that you're not going to want to miss.
I think we should at least announce it on the same day.
Yeah, sure.
You don't want to totally miss the mark there and having no one seeing it.
Yeah. Reasons why you might not want to say anything till you're close.
I guess so. Maybe you're right. I don't know. We'll see. Anyhow, so Job, I understand you have to take off early too, right?
I do, but Dracopole, he mentioned female erotic fiction and Venger. So I'm going to do a giveaway right now. So if there's someone who can write me, a short, the best short erotic fanfic that involves Venger, and we will read the winning entry on the next episode. Sorry, Pundit, I'm just making this up. I'm just going off the top of my head. And the winner will receive a copy of the first game I ever wrote, 2012 fanfic. An erotic storytelling game. This is a story game that I wrote when I used to hang out with story gamers. And I will send a free copy of this to the person who wins this contest. So send your entries to fanfic at bloodyhammergames.com, and I will I'll send them out to the rest of the hosts on the show, and we'll pick the best one. And you will get a free copy. Can I make a slight
amendment to this, Job? That
sure.
If we're going to read it out, we will read it out either on an episode with no guest stars, or we'll read it out in a separate video so that we don't.
That's a good point. Yeah, we can't read this on a show with our guests.
Yeah. We're trying to draw in a high quality crowd here.
Yeah, since Venger's not here,
I don't have a lot of confidence in whatever people end up making as a fanfic. Also, I don't really want to be a judge of this. I want to be exposed to as little of this as possible.
Okay, I will be the judge. I just came up with another rule off the top of my head, which is none of the characters can include RPG Pundit or Hentai Dad 42069.
That's
right.
Must be that's exclusively
not Venger.
Venger.
And something
it can be Venger. It can be other figures of the RPG world, I guess, but not the two of us.
Yeah. Okay.
Instant disqualification if it includes either of us.
All right. Well, we're
going to close it down, guys. So if you got any quick questions, blast them out. Sorry.
I was going to give the audience an opportunity to ask one last question before we go.
Okay, because like I was saying that Job's got to go, and unfortunately, if Job has to go, the show has to end because I have no idea how to run anything. So I'm just one of these useless intellectuals that talks a lot but doesn't actually know how to work a computer. So, although today I really burned a guy on his inability to search on Google, though I think it was someone who was being intentionally obtuse, actually.
I think I stymied everybody with the Venger erotic fanfic contest, but
yeah, looks not like it.
At least it fits the theme of the show. All right, well, thanks everyone for showing up. We'll see you next month, June 20th.
That's right.
With a very
Sorry
very
for cutting
special
it a little
guest.
bit short, but next time we'll make up for it in spades, I hope. And yeah, thank you for coming and thank you for watching.
All right. Have a good one,
Currently
everybody.
smoking Italian Red Bark plus Argento Latacchia.